Hello, yes, it's Joe here for Joyrider TV, live with some more Q&A. This is actually going to be the last Q&A before Christmas. So if you have got any burning questions that can't wait, now is going to be the time to get them out. Yeah, so if this is your first time visiting, for those of you who are watching on the uploaded recording of this, which will be later on, of course, if you do comment in the comments section, then I will get back to you, but it obviously won't be in the video because it won't be live. But if you are watching live, then that's great. If you'd like to ask any questions, then I would like to answer them. I am just reconfiguring my action a little bit so that I can see everything. And hello to everybody who's already tuned in. Great to have you with us. If you are tuning in, let me know where you're tuning in from. It's always nice to know which corners of the globe we are hitting at this time. Of course, coming to you from Vasiliki, which is on the Greek island of Lefkos, where it's 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm sure some of you are just in the morning right now. Perhaps it's time for a coffee or something similar. As always, I've got some pre-loaded questions that we've had. So I think I'm just going to steam in. I haven't got anything in the live chat just yet. So if anybody could just give me a quick hello, just to let me know that the live chat is active, that would be great. And I am going to steam in to the first question. So first question is coming from Bernardo, who's a regular visitor, who says, why, when you're coming into land, do you downhaul off before you get to the point where you're going to get off the boat? Well, that is a very good question, because if you're sailing, especially if it's a strong wind, what you're doing when you're pulling the downhaul on, back pedal a little bit more. If you haven't got any downhaul on at all, then it's effectively like not having your boat switched on. You haven't yet switched on your mainsail. So with no downhaul on at all, if we just take a look at, which way do we go? This way. At looking top down, this is the mast and this is the sail. Looking top down, no downhaul, you're going to have a sail which has got absolutely no shape to it at all. And what's great with having no downhaul is if you want the boat just to sit there in as neutral or as relaxed a fashion as possible, no downhaul means that the mainsail isn't going to do anything as long as the boat's pointing into the wind. And it's just going to sit there very nicely. However, when you pull the downhaul on, what that does is that puts the shape into the sail. So what we're going to get is a big curve in the sail like this. So what that means is if you're trying to sit with the boat not doing anything, which a typical would be when you're in the shallow water just getting ready to leave, or if you've just coming back in and you're ready to jump off the boat and grab hold of it, if you've still got the downhaul on, then what's going to happen, especially if it's windy, is the wind's going to blow from this side, which is going to pull it round this way a bit. And then the wind will blow from this side, which means all the battens will pop and the whole rig will just be flogging. And if it's windy, like more than 15 knots, it could be flogging quite aggressively, which is going to make the boat really difficult to hold on to. So letting your downhaul off before you come in is really valuable. There are, of course, other times when it's going to be really handy to let the downhaul off, especially in a strong wind. One is if you're capsized and it has been really windy, unless you're racing and you need to get underway as quickly as possible, it's nice to let the downhaul off while the boat's capsized, but you have to release it completely, not ease it, because easing it is just going to put more curve in. So release it completely. And then that means that when the boat comes upright, the sail is going to be like this. So it's not going to flog violently. Another time might be if you've gone out sailing and it is just way too windy and you really do fear for the future of your existence. Just changing the light here a little bit. No, better how it was. All right, beg your pardon. Okay. Yeah, if you're worried because it's so windy that how on earth are we going to get back in, then just to sit with the downhaul off, you're going to get blown downwind, which hopefully you won't have gone out in an offshore wind, as we discussed in the safety video, and you will just drift. So let's just take a look at what we do there, actually. It's a tangent, yes, but I haven't got so many preloaded questions in today, so we've got time to look at such things. So here's one for what if you want to get here, you're here, and it is so windy that you are extremely scared and not sure how you're going to get back in. Well, one way that you can do it is probably the most sensible way. If you're here, is to drop the mainsail, because then you can come in just on the jib and it should be very manageable to get back in. So that would be method number one. Drop the mainsail. It is possible to drop the mainsail on any type of catamaran afloat. Perhaps it does require a little bit of technique. So if you're not sure of how to drop your mainsail afloat, you're not going to believe this, but I have actually made a video on how to do this for most different types of catamaran. So check that out. Dropping the mainsail, option one. Option two could be just to let the downhaul off, say your sail goes completely limp, and then push the rudders away from you. This is going to take a little while, but it's going to be quite safe and manageable. And what will happen when you've got the rudders across this way, no power in the sail, jib completely off. If you've got a rolling jib, you could roll that up as well. The boat's going to kind of drift in this direction. Sorry, let's just put another, in this direction. And then when you get a certain distance over here, like if you've decided you've started going a little bit too far to the side of where it is you want to get to, you can then do a static tack. This is another great skill that you should definitely have in your quiver of great skills. So the static tack is one where you don't have to be going forwards before you tack. So if we're starting off from this position like this, downhaul off, sail flapping, then what we can do is we can actually get the bows of the boat completely into the wind just by pulling in the main sheet. So we'll pull the main sheet in tight, the boat will go up into the wind, and then as soon as we're into the wind, so the rudders will have gone round like this, as soon as we're into the wind, we'll let the main sheet go completely loose again, put the rudders the other way, and the boat will then quite quickly reverse round until we're on the other side. mainsail loose. And then we can do the same as how it was before, rudders across, and we'll just drift this way, do another static tack. And the actual direction that we take, if we go to a slightly larger scale, if we were starting from here, we'd kind of be doing this and just coming in, but that would be extremely controlled and a very safe way to come in. So there we go. That is the gift that is available, called letting the downhaul off, to make the boat a lot more manageable if it's windy. But I would certainly recommend to everybody to get into the habit of having your downhaul completely loose if your boat is on the land, and don't put the downhaul on until you're actually sailing the boat, and let the downhaul off before you hit the beach. So if you're coming in from over here, don't leave it till the last minute, because you might find that you've got a load of different jobs that you need to attend to really quickly. But what you could do is let the downhaul off while you're still a distance out. If you've got dagger boards at that stage, lift them up as well. If you've got a rolling jib, roll the jib then as well, and then come back, come in, turn into the wind, and the boat will be docile. There we go. All right, so we've got some people tuning in the live chat. We've got Scott there dropping it in the slot. He says, good morning, glad to be on board for the live broadcast. Yeah, Scott doesn't make it here that often. We've got Robin in Florida. Good morning, great to have you on board as always. We're just looking at Florida earlier. I think it's Clearwater Beach, would it be, where they're hosting the 2022 Formula 18 World Championships, which are going to be in October. So I'd say, even if you're not interested in Formula 18 sailing, but you're in the area and it's not too far to drive down, I think it's from the 10th to the 16th of October, there's going to be the F18 racing. A great time to get down there would be when all the boats are rigged on the beach, which at most events, that would be about between 10 and 11 in the morning. And then even if the racing is really far out to sea, too far to actually really have a good look at it, unless you've got your own speedboat or Hobie 16 that you could sail out with. But just to have a look at some of these boats on the beach before they head out, that would be pretty cool, because some of the F18s, well, a lot of them are really cutting edge designs and well worth a look. So if you're in the area, I would say head down. Somewhere else to head down to, just all right. Hello, Willis. Great to have you with us as always. Hello, Zach in Ohio. Nice one. And then we've got Chris from the Line Star State, Texas. Yeah, so another great event that you should be heading to is going to be the Prindle 50th Anniversary North American Championships, which are going to be in Texas. And that is early June in Texas, Prindle Championships. If you are in the Texas area and you haven't got a Prindle, but you're a keen sailor, I should get in touch with the guys in the area who sail Prindles and find out if anybody might be looking for somebody to sail with, and see if you can get involved. There might be a chance, same with the F18s, that they might be looking for people to help on the committee boat, or perhaps on SAFTEY, on mark boats, that kind of things. So you might actually be able to get out on the water and see the action from out there by volunteering your services. Of course, it does mean giving up a couple of days to go and get involved in the running of the event, but it really is a great way of improving your sailing knowledge and having a real look at what goes on at the sharp end of some of these competitions, is getting involved and helping out if you can't actually participate in the race as a participant. So there you go. Yeah, so the Prindles in June, and then the F18s, Prindles June, Texas, F18s October, Florida. And it looks like Robin's going to be there. So we'll all be able to hang out with Robin at the F18 Worlds in October. Okay, beg your pardon. I should have known that as well, Chris. Texas is known as the Lone Star State. Oh, and then another event to go and have a look at, and this one will be pretty crazy, is the ACAT Worlds, which are going to be in Houston early May. Now, the A-Class really, if you haven't seen a modern A-Class, it really is pretty mind-blowing. Like, for example, just one feature I'm going to throw at you just now is on the A-Class, they have a solid trampoline. Not like a mesh one or a PVC one that we're used to, but actually solid, that it is like having a piece of wood between the hulls. These boats just so efficient. It is unbelievable. Once again, thanks to everybody for tuning in. Yeah, coming to you from Vasiliki, Greece, having a lovely time. This is going to be the last Q&A before Christmas. So after this one, I suppose, will that make it New Year's Eve Friday week? Might do. If next Friday is the 24th, yeah, it could be New Year's Eve. I think we'll definitely be going out on New Year's Eve because that's the kind of action that we are into. Chris says, if I can't find a charter boat, I'll be doing race committee. Oh, but what about your Prindle 19, Chris? One would ask on that topic. But while Chris is mulling that over, let's have a look at our next preloaded question. And this one comes from Kieran. And this is a follow-up on the safety video. Oh, so yeah, if you hadn't seen it, did quite a deep dive into safety, which went out this week. The thumbnail says Safety Fundamentals 1. And with the construction of this video, I did reach out to the Joyrider TV global community to find out what safety considerations everybody takes when they're going sailing. And that, along with my own experience, I put together two pretty juicy videos on safety. The first one is already out. The next one is coming on Tuesday. That will be released. And that one says Safety Fundamentals 2, because it's the second one. And with this pair of videos, I think we can all be a lot safer. I think I'm going to be a lot safer next time I go afloat, just from having reviewed all of this stuff. Because even experienced sailors, because you're experienced, you're very good at it, you get a bit complacent, and you can stop thinking that there's the possibility for things going wrong. So by checking out a video on safety, which also works as a podcast, you can just put it on, listen to it, and there might be some, oh yeah, I should really do that. Like, for example, I always forget to tell anybody that I'm going out because I never have enough time. You know, it's one of the fundamental things that we all should be doing, which sometimes perhaps gets missed. So there we go. All right, so back to Kieran's question. He said he'd like just to hear my thoughts on what I think about the use of the helmet on the boat. Yeah, so before, I think about 5 years ago, I was pretty anti-helmets, especially when teaching young people. My views on the use of the helmet was that if you get used to sailing in a helmet, you get used to being able to hit your head on the boom and it not hurt, which means if there was a time when you went out on a boat without a helmet on and you've forgotten that you haven't got a helmet on, so talking about young people more here, and they get hit on the head without a helmet on, then that could be a bad time, which is why before I started using helmets myself, I thought that is my policy, not going to encourage the use of helmets because I don't want people getting used to having that indestructible head feeling, because when it's not indestructible, there could be problems there. And along with the being able to hit your head and it not hurt, it also makes your head bigger because obviously of the size of the thing, which means you're more likely to hit your head as well. Now, the reason that I changed my viewpoint on this was that a couple of years ago, maybe it was about 5 years ago, I got a pretty juicy concussion, and I'm still from time to time suffering from it now, 5 years later. So I really appreciate now that I am not a superhero. I do feel pain, and things, when they get damaged, they can stay damaged for quite a long time. So I've actually got a helmet here. This is my helmet. This is, I don't know what the model's called. The brand is Mystic. This is the type of helmet. Well, this is the exact helmet that I'm using. The reason I went for the Mystic one is because it was available in a larger size than most of them. And I have got quite a big head, but then having received this one, it's actually a little bit on the big side. So if you've got a big head, I would say the Mystic helmet brand, definitely a good one to go for. I also, of course, use the helmet to put the camera on. Once again, thanks to Trey for the GoPro Max, possibly the best single donation I've received, along with the printing machine and the Tornado catamaran from Kurt. Yeah, I think that was pretty significant as well. But yeah, so having the helmet to mount the camera is a lot more secure than the elastic kind of strap that I use quite a lot. But if you see in some of the videos, it's not that windy, but I'm wearing a helmet. That is because of the camera mounting facility rather than the safety. So my view now is, when am I going to put a helmet on, is if I feel, you can see how much bigger that makes the head. I'll keep the head in the same position. So on the video, it's coming to the top of that flag, put it on, quite a lot bigger, especially with the camera, a lot bigger. So when do I put the helmet on? I put the helmet on if I'm not filming and it's for safety. I put it on if I feel that there is a strong chance of a capsize. Because if I think there's a strong chance of a capsize, I want all the help that I can get. So there we go. All right. So back to Chris. He wasn't talking about the Prindle competition because Chris sails a Prindle 19. He's talking about the ACAT Worlds. So he's going to see if he can charter a boat. Yeah, that would be absolutely amazing to get hold of a boat for that one. That's for sure. Nice. Yeah, Scott says, nice safety video, especially the footage of the demasting. Yeah, that was some of the best. I think that's some of the best footage I've ever got, was from there was two bits of demasting in there. There was the demasting on the Hobie 14, which was pretty good footage. Really liked that a lot. And then there was the demasting on the Tornado, which we just happened to, on that day, have a camera on the top of the mast. First and only time we've ever done it. And we snapped the mast. That was as mast snap rather than demasting. Yeah, so pretty juicy stuff there. All right. If anybody's got any questions, by the way, fire away. I've only got another preloaded question, which we'll have a look at now. So this is from Gustavo, who's just incidentally, he's just notched it up on the speed stick to just under 20 knots. 1 week left for the current. Well, no, it's not. It's more like, what is it? 13 days, 14 days left for the current speed stick to run. See if you can notch it up before the close. And then what I'll be doing with the speed sticks is I'll be taking the results from the 2021 speed stick and putting those results onto the all-time leaderboard. So then the all-time leaderboard is gradually going to be getting chunkier, but each year we'll have a fresh competition so that the top of the leaderboard especially isn't completely jammed up with speeds that are just not achievable by a normal person. All right. So Gustavo, just under 20 knots, says, I'm still not confident enough to hike out yet, so I sit on the edge of the trampoline side beam, but as the boat gains speed and it starts to tilt up, I feel my body start to slide inwards. I'm sure we've all had that feeling. This is also exacerbated by the pull of the main sheet, which he's keeping mostly uncleated. The only solution he's come up with is to get a foothold on the traveller fair lead to support the body and resist the body's slide inwards. It's working, but I'm afraid to break it. Let me know if you understand what I'm talking about. Yes, I understand 100% what you're talking about, and this is quite a common thing to do. Firstly, is it likely to break that central traveller cleat on the back beam? It is fairly unlikely to break. What I would do is periodically, like probably every time you rig your main sheet before you go sailing, just have a look at the traveller cleat, give it a little wiggle, and if the actual fitting moves, in fact, probably best to do when you come in from sailing each time, because that means then you can do something about it before you then want to go out the next time. But what I would suggest is when you're de-rigging the boat, give the traveller cleat a little wiggle to see if there is movement. If we're talking Hobie 16, the mounting plate for the traveller cleat is kind of like an alien's head, like that kind of shape. And then we've got 3 rivets that hold it in. If when you just give it a little wiggle, if any of these rivets feel like there's movement, then it's worth drilling these rivets out and putting some new rivets in. Make sure your rivets that you're using are stainless steel, not aluminium or aluminum, because the stainless steel or inox ones are much, much stronger, and you definitely need the strong rivets there. But then if there's no movement, there's nothing wrong with putting your foot up against that to stop you from sliding into the boat. But there are better ways that we can address this rather than using the traveller cleat, because the main problem with using the traveller cleat is it's going to have you where is that is that there? All right, is it's going to put you at the back of the boat all the time, which is not particularly efficient in terms of boat trim unless you are sailing downwind. So there's our trampoline. There's the mast. There is our traveller cleat in the middle. All right. So what else can we use to brace ourselves from sliding down the boat if we're not trapezing and things are getting a bit juicy? Well, the first and most obvious thing that could be pointed out is on the trampoline, you should have some toe straps, which should have a little guide here. Actually, on the topic of this little guide here, there should be they should either be stitched down in the middle, or there should be a little guide halfway. The reason why there's a little guide halfway down the toe straps is so that if you were to capsize, by having that bit there, it reduces the chance of you being able to slide between the trampoline and the toe strap. That is a really dangerous place to end up, is in that between, basically with your anything more than your foot under the toe strap can be a little bit iffy if you capsize. So make sure your toe straps are tight, and if they're meant to have a guide or be stitched down halfway there, then, and they haven't, then you should be doing something about that. But the most sensible in the how you're going to stop from sliding down the boat is by putting a foot under the toe strap. And what you can do is either put both feet under the toe strap, but what I find is if that is your only thing that's stopping you from sliding and you've got both feet under, you could still slide and perhaps slide under, which is what we're just talking about. So instead, if you put one foot under, the other foot on top, and then that in itself should do the job of stopping you from sliding down the boat. But better still, if you're starting to lift the hull, and this is only if you trust your toe straps. We've now got trousers. Trousers have been introduced. You could then sit so that, hold on, where can we draw this? All right, so if this is the sidebar, assuming we're on a 16, so this is the foot under the toe strap, and then the buttocks just go over the sidebar. So then the buttocks are going to help to stop you from sliding down as well. Let's put a trouser on this guy, and a nice jersey, smiley face, massive nose, and there we go. Yeah, and that's the sidebar of the 16 just there. Yes, there's another method of how not to slide down the trampoline. Another popular one on any boat that has got trampoline lacing, especially down the middle, would be to put a foot or kind of wedge your heel into the middle of the trampoline lacing as well, especially if you are sailing downwind. Wedging your foot into the trampoline lacing is a good spot. But onto Gustavo's original point that he doesn't yet have the confidence to get out on the trapeze. Then if you've watched the helming on the trapeze videos, one technique that I mentioned there, and this is a really good one, is even if you're not thinking of going out trapezing properly, if your boat is fitted with trapeze wires, have your trapeze harness on, and then in this position, be hooked on. It means you don't have to work the abdominals as much. You're attached to the boat, and it will start to give you that feeling of being hooked on. Now, I think we've got some stuff in the live chat on this topic, perhaps. Oh yeah, this is from Johan66. Nice to have you on board. You can also turn the toe strap 90 degrees and leave with your feet on it. Yeah, that's a good point, actually. most tow straps, especially if you've got a boat which you tie the tow strap on to when you're putting the trampoline on, when you put the tow strap on, you want to fit it with a twist, because as Johan says, that twist will help you to give you something to put your foot against, but it will also make it a lot easier to get your foot underneath than if the tow strap is just lying perfectly flat. So if you're fitting tow straps to your trampoline, fit them with a twist, a 180-degree twist, and then there we are, easier to get your foot under. Johan also says, or you could put a foot on the boom. Okay, that would be slightly juicier unless you've got a very, very long leg. All right, so I hope that helps you there, Gustavo. But what I'd certainly recommend is get to this position over the sidebar, hooked onto the trapeze, so you're starting to get the feeling of trapezing, and just spend a bit of time before you put the boat in the water, just to get the length of the trapeze wire right, just so it's really, really comfortable. It's easy to get into and out of. Very nice. And one last thing with the tow straps, especially if you've got a slightly older boat, don't trust your tow straps if they don't deserve to be trusted. If you've got an original 1980 trampoline on your boat that's seen a lot of sun, salt water, there is a chance that if you put your full body weight under the tow strap and lean out like this guy without the trapeze, your tow strap might break, which could eject you from the boat. Okay, just going to take a short commercial break now for those watching later. Very good. All right. So Chris says, back to the helmets. He's going to get Benjamin, who is his 8-year-old, to use one on the cats as we're going faster and faster. Any recommendations for a kid's helmet? Even one for his old man? Yeah, the only helmets, to be honest, sailing helmets that I've ever been using has been these Mystic ones. Mystic happens to be the same company as Magic Marine. So Magic Marine is like the sailing division of a Mystic is like the windsurfing, kite surfing, wing foiling division of Magic Marine. So I believe that they're actually the same helmet. They're Magic Marine and Mystic coming from Holland. So I don't know how easy that is to get those brands in the US. I think I did put a link to this one that I use in my Amazon.com storefront to make it easier for you to find such a thing. But I think one of the really good ones from what I've seen is the one from Forward Sailing. It'll be quite expensive, but it is really is a much more of an engineered piece of equipment. But for me, I think the Mystic one does everything that you need it to do. But we do use the Magic Marine ones for kids as well at Wildwind now. So if kids are going sailing and it's windy, then one of our rules is that they do have to wear a helmet every time. So there you go. All right, we've got Mark and Janet. Hello from Grand Lake, St. Mary's, Ohio State Park, largest inland lake in Ohio, 21 square miles. Nice. Thanks for tuning in. Great to have you on board with us this afternoon or this morning, depending on where you are, of course. All right, Scott says, you mentioned about early on snapping a lot of rudders. I did. What was the mechanism of failure? What have you done to reduce the occurrence of snapping rudders? That is a strong question. All right. So the snapping rudders were a constant problem on the Hobie 16. Now, the reason why this was happening a lot on the Hobie 16 specifically is because, firstly, like we were talking about last week, for those of you who saw it, we were talking about the depth of the rudder stock. So on a Hobie 16, very simply put, the rudder stock is like this, whereas on the other boats, like on the Hobie 15, the Pacific Tiger, and so on, Hobie 18, of course, the rudder stock is much bigger, which means that the load at the top of the rudder blade on the Hobie 18, let's go 18, 16 here. So this is 18, this is 16. So by spreading the load that much more, it means the rudder blade is much, much less likely to break because we're spreading the load over a larger distance. Whereas having all of the load taken by that small distance on a Hobie 16, it is much more likely to break. The other reason why we were breaking a lot of Hobie 16 rudder blades specifically, because the 14 uses the same rudder stocks as does the Dragoon, but we don't snap rudder blades on those boats, and that is because the amount of pressure on the rudders of a 16 is huge, because the 16 has got big sails and it hasn't got very much hull in the water, which means all of the pressure which is pushing the boat effectively sideways, there is a larger percentage of that pressure being taken by the rudders on a 16 than anything else as a percentage. So, which actually means that the rudders on a 16 need to be stronger than on any other type of boat because of that amount of pressure going through the blades. We've also got on the 16, to add to compound the issue, is the 16 twists a lot. It's very difficult to get the rudders perfect because the boat is not an exact science with all this twisting between the hulls, which will do this with the hulls a bit as well. And which means there'll be the chance of more load because they're not set up perfectly, means there is more load, more chance of them breaking. We probably, before we solved the problem, answer coming shortly of how we solved the problem. Before we solved the problem, we were probably snapping clean in half one White Knight, that's the carbon reinforced Hobie Cat rudder blade, probably one every 2 weeks, which is really upsetting, as I'm sure you can imagine. And we had Marco, who was doing our fiberglass repairs, constantly taking the snapped rudder blades, trying to get them before they actually snapped fully. And when we were talking about rudder blades snapping, if we look down the length of the blade from the back, we'll see that the rudder blade is made up of 2 halves. So in between the 2 halves, there's a joint where the 2 halves are glued together. And the precursor to the rudder blade snapping completely in half is that this glue joint would start to snap. And when that glue joint snaps, it or breaks, or the 2 halves aren't properly together, it means there's no lateral strength to the rudder blade. So all this pressure coming from the side has got even less resistance, because the rudder blade now is going to bend and eventually from it bending, and that eventually might only be a couple of minutes, then it's going to snap. And the place where it's going to snap is, we'll go blue now. So if this is the rudder blade in here, the place where it's going to snap is where the rudder stock ends. So this is going to be where it ends. Now, we could argue, and we did get a lot of rudder blades because we were buying a lot of rudder blades from Hobie Cat Europe. And because we were buying them new to replace these old ones, it meant they had this magical thing attached to them called warranty, which meant if we snapped a rudder blade, whenever we got a rudder blade, we'd write a number on it, take down the serial number off that rudder blade so we knew exactly which blade is on which boat. If we snapped a blade, we'd have all of the information. We'd send it to Hobie Cat Europe, and then maybe twice a season, we'd send them a massive packet of broken rudder blades, and then the next season, they'd replace them for new ones. So Hobie Cat Europe were really, really great in their warranty replacements on the Hobie 16 rudder blades, as long as they broke within a year or 2 years. I can't remember now. But how did we fix the problem forever? Well, it was just with the appearance of the EPO-free rudder blades, which is like that. Now, so there was, I think it was 4 or 5 years ago, we'd had a lot of rudder blades breaking and there was no light in the end of the tunnel. When the rudder blades were being repaired, if they were snapped like this, as soon as they went like this separation went all the way in. So the repair was only temporary. But as soon as we fitted all of our 16s with EPO 3s, we never broke another rudder blade since. Now, these rudder blades are possibly the most expensive rudder blades in the world. I think they're something like, it's around 400 euros per blade, which it might even be more than that, which is a pretty fierce number. But for us, having rudder blades that don't break is absolutely priceless. The other thing that we've done is we've had covers made for all of our rudder blades so they're not getting exposed to the UV when the boat's sat on the beach as well, which I think probably helps. So there we go. That is the complete story of the rudder blades. And as well as that, one thing that's going to help to reduce the risk of breaking rudder blades is to have your rudders set up as near to perfectly as possible. That means we're getting rid of all this play, which when we've got this play that allows the blade to come backwards, if they come backwards, that means there's going to be even more load on the blade, even more chance of breaking it. All right, continuing. We've got Willis who says it must have been to do with what I was saying at the time. It then says, I'm thinking of getting some of that rubberized non-skid stuff for the sidebars. Just for that, I don't have a trapeze set. Yay. Okay, gotcha. Just to help you not slide down the boat. Yeah, that's going to help as well. If back to how not to slide down the boat, if your sidebars, if you're sailing a boat with sidebars, or if the side of your boat is really slippery and doesn't have anything there which is going to help, then to put some of this rubber stuff like Rail Rug or Treadmaster on the sidebars of the boat, that is going to greatly increase your chance of not disappearing off the other side. All right, we've got Lou, or is that Louis, on board? I'm guessing from Germany, who says, come and sail at the next Kilo Week, Kilo Walk, which in English we call it Kiel Week. Kiel Week is one of the biggest sailing regattas in the year in Europe. Kiel is in northern Germany, and it is a really juicy one. I would absolutely love to come and get involved at Kiel Week. That's another one which, if you are in the area, it would be well worth just going along and having a look. And like I said, with the other events, a good time to be in the boat park is 10 to 11 o'clock in the morning, as that's when a lot of the boats are rigged and perhaps they're just waiting for the right wind before they launch, which when a boat's rigged and sat on the beach, that is prime time for having a look at that boat and all of its splendid rigging and layout of the lines and stuff. Well worth a look. And we have got the return of USA for the win. It's great to have you back. It has been a very long time since I've seen your YouTube tag. So thanks for coming back. We've missed you too. All right. So is that everything? I think it might be, unless anybody's going to fire in with another question. Oh, here's a question from USA for the win. Skinny hulls or fat ones? That is quite an unusual question. Skinny hulls or fat ones? I would say depends on the day. Skinny hulls, I'm thinking you might be talking Hobie 16. The Hobie 16, yes, to the skinny hulls. The Hobie 16 provides such a great ride. If you're a sailor of a different type of boat and you've never tried a Hobie 16, if you're in Europe or wherever you are, why not come down to Wildwind Sailing Holidays? Perhaps next summer, a good time to come. If you don't have a family or children, a good time to come, I would say, is from the middle to the end of June. I'd say this is a secret, don't tell anyone, but from the middle of June to middle of July, that is definitely the best bit of the season, because that is when the wind is really consistent, the weather's good, it's not too hot generally, and there's not quite as many people about. Once you hit the middle of July to the end of August, that is when the wind is truly consistent, but it does get quite a lot busier, both in the village and on the water. But that middle of June to middle of July period is absolutely wicked. And then the start of September also very good, but I prefer middle of June to middle of July personally. It's got a slightly better feel to it for me. But then in September, the water is a bit warmer as well, generally speaking. So there we go. So come to Wildwind and try out our skinny hulls and our fat ones too. I'm a big believer in a fat hull. Also, I'm not going to limit myself just to skinny hulls. All right, Johan 66 says, did you figure out the Dyneema splicing yet? Well, yes, I did actually, but I didn't dare put out a second video after the slating that the first one got because I was using bad technique. So I learned how to do a locking Brummel splice, which basically means that all of the tucking of the tail is pretty much just for the aesthetics, and it's very strong. It's how I did my trapeze lines on the Tornado, which didn't break during the Worlds. So I'm quite happy to say, yes, they work well. Right, I've just noticed that Chris says in reply to USA for the win, I like a hull with a little meat on her bones. Oh yeah. I like both types. I'll go both ways. Skinny ones, fat ones, ones in between as well. Long ones, short ones, all of them. All right. Scott says, when we come to Vasiliki, do we need to bring our own wetsuits and helmets? We do have helmets for people to use. But if I would say, though, if you've got a helmet that you like, then, and the same goes for a wetsuit as well, it's always nice to be using your own gear. I think if I was going to go to another sailing centre and it was like, oh, it's all right, we've got wetsuits, trapeze harnesses, everything, I would say, actually, I'm going to take my own because I know that my own fits me nicely and it's comfortable and I know the history of these items. But we do have wetsuits and helmets, which are for the use of everybody who's sailing with us. But if you come from I'd say middle of June, you're still looking at a summer wetsuit, which would be maybe a 3-2. I think the ideal is what we'd call a summer suit, which is the long legs and the short arms, because what a lot of our guests do find is this rug rash, as was coined last week by Gustavo, of the raw knees on the trampoline if you're sailing in shorts and you're not used to sailing in shorts. So the long leg wetsuit with the short arms is definitely the sweet spot. Right, Johan says, Merry Christmas and healthy and good sailing 2022. To you too, Johan, and thanks very much for tuning in. All right, Louis says, I'm in a sailing club in Kiel, and it is always great to sail along the big ships. And it must be a paradise for you too. Absolutely. It is fantastic. Yeah, one of the best things I've ever done in my sailing life, I've got video to prove it as well, except I never posted it because I didn't think the actual quality of the video was good enough, was I went out on a Hobie 16 and sailed out with the J-class yacht Velshida. The J-class yachts were one of the original classes of the America's Cup. And it was the most amazing experience on a sailing boat that I've had. Well, one of them, sailing out with this yacht. The sail area on the spinnaker was mind-blowing. Absolutely amazing. All right. Hi, David. Great to have you on board. Nipping in at the end. USA for the win. I need to get back on the Nacra. Oh, yeah. Went on a Dragonfly trimaran. Very nice. Yeah, I had a little spell on the 28-foot Dragonfly. Really, really good fun. And if you think your catamaran's wide, the trimaran is, I think it's about 7 meters wide. That is a hell of a thing. All right, Willis says, please hit the like button before you leave. If you're thinking of leaving, yeah, I think we are about to tie it up. All right, so no further questions now, please, if you could avoid it, unless you've got something burning, because we're not back next week. That is the big news, because it's Christmas Eve next week, and time for the family, isn't it? All right. Hi, Christopher in Sweden. Thanks for tuning in. All right, Gustavo says, I was reading that all collegiate sailing programs in the USA are requiring helmets. Studies revealed that sailing has the equivalent number of concussions as American football. Now, that is quite alarming statistic, but there we go. Put your helmets on, guys. All right, and happy holidays to everyone who is tuning in. Oh, Stefan says, please post the Velshida video. I got an image of Velshida in my bedroom. Oh, yeah, I will do, actually. When will I put that out? I have to be strategic with my uploading. We've got Show Us Your Cat coming on Sunday. You probably think the viewers that Show Us Your Cat is something that I just throw together, takes no time at all. No word of a lie. It took me about 5 hours today to put that together. So make sure you watch it, please, because that was an emotional 5 hours putting that together. It's a really good one as well. But yes, the Velshida video, we've got the schedule, video schedule. Show Us Your Cat on Sunday. Then on Tuesday, part 2 of the safety fundamentals videos. And then I think what I'll do, because there won't be anything at the weekend next week, is I'll put, as a little Christmas treat, I'll put up the Velshida video on Friday next week. And they can see why I didn't upload it, but it is very cool. Okay, thanks for that, Stefan. Good idea. All right, thanks, guys. Once again, don't forget to hit the like button before you log off. Let's write it here. Hit the like button. Because what that does is it just means by you hitting the like button, it means my video gets put out to more people. And you may, I was thinking about this earlier. I'm putting, you know, this isn't all about me, but it is. I put a lot of time into making these videos. This live Q&A is an hour long. I get next to nothing from Google, but one of my motivations in doing this is when you get 100,000 subscribers, you get a silver plaque from YouTube. Now, that is what I've got my eye on. At the moment, we're sitting at about 22,000. So the more people that see the videos, we're going to be working in that direction, which gives me more enthusiasm to keep on doing all these things, which, you know, I'm not, apart from knowing that I'm helping so many people, there's not a lot coming back from it. Some people are giving me nice stuff, like Trey, who gave me the GoPro Max, very nice indeed. Like Dick, who gave me the printing machine. Like Kurt, who sponsored me for the tornado, and like everybody else who's been chipping in on Patreon or who has been sponsoring me to do the events or anything like that. I really appreciate it all. So thanks very much. And I also appreciate that I'm in a very privileged position to have a life that is revolving around catamaran sailing. And I should be passing that on. And so that is what I'm doing. But all I'm saying is the amount of time that goes into putting Show Us Your Cat together is more than you might think. Okay, so thanks very much. Have a great Christmas if I don't see you beforehand. Otherwise, I'll be back on New Year's Eve with more Q&A and Show Us Your Cat on Sunday. Have a nice time, and I'll see you soon. Stay safe out there, and thanks very much for coming. And we'll see you soon, and stay safe out there. Thank you.